Hey, David Wygant, 10 minutes of daily reality. We might go 14 today, so be prepared because we are going to show you today how you can get involved and make money. Now, remember, I'm not an investment advisor. I'm not a therapist. I have to tell you that all the time, too, even though you ask me all these questions about your personal life. But I'm going to give you ways, and we've got some interesting people on the show today that will enable you to participate in something that I think is going to change the way we look at the internet. About 20 years ago, there was this thing called the dot-com boom. And there was guys like Mark Cuban who had these companies, and people were saying, God, these companies, what are these companies? They don't make any money. Well, it just seems like all the things they did 20 years ago are all the things that we're now doing. This thing, Amazon, that bookseller, remember that thing, Netflix, we're actually going to stop going to a place called Blockbuster and actually stream videos. People thought we were out of our minds, right? There was a company, had a funny name. It was called Google or something, and people thought, Google, man, how is Google? I remember when Google went public, it was $81 I got in at, and I sold it for 82, 1,000 shares, and I was really happy I made $1,000 bucks. I was happy. It took me 30 seconds to make $1,000, right? Well, if I had those 1,000 shares nowadays, that would have been worth, well, we know how much money that would have been worth. So we are going to give you some information that will literally have you look back in the year 2018 and say, I got involved in an investment opportunity from the beginning. And 20 years from now, you won't be me and say, God, I wish I kept my Google and Amazon stocks. So, John, we got a very, very special guest, which I want you to introduce.
Hey guys.
I want you to roll with one of our greatest passions right now is teaching people how to change their mindset around money, wealth, and everything else. Go for it, John.
Hey guys, John Keegan here. And we're going to bring in a guy by the name of Ian Balina, who I first heard about a couple of months back from a friend. And he said he's he called him the new Jesus. So I said, what? And anyway, I started watching him on Instagram and on YouTube. And then through him, I really started learning a lot deeper beyond Bitcoin about the blockchain. And what really got me right away as a guy who's coaching people on how to become a great connector all day with a sort of elevated spiritual path is that his path, the way that he's operating and how he's sharing is it kind of, to me, has a spiritual undertone to it. And what he taught me is that the blockchain has a spiritual undertone to it, and the way that he shares with the people who follow him and listen to him and learn from him is really the spirit of the blockchain. So I think that would be a great title of this today, in the spirit of the blockchain. And Ian is obviously a very bright guy who understands a lot of things I don't understand, but I'm learning every day from him, and I'd like to give you guys the same opportunity. But basically, Ian, you can kind of tell us now, beyond Bitcoin, Ethereum, which are the two big ones. There's a lot of other technologies coming out, cryptocurrencies, that can be world changing, but also can be great investments for regular people. Even though none of us are giving investment advice, and it's just our opinion, I'd like to ask you about that if we could.
All right, sounds good. Honored to be on the show. I'm a big fan of you guys. So looking forward to educating people and evangelizing the blockchain.
Great. Well, thanks for being here. Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit more about just about blockchain in general, about what's happening in the world right now from your point of view?
Right. So blockchain, in my opinion, is the biggest innovation in technology since the internet itself. Right. So just think about that for a second. Imagine being able to have been there in the early innovations of the internet and being able to invest in those companies. Right, from the Amazons, the Googles, to even the Microsofts, right, to the Ciscos, right, being that early and being able to get a piece of the pie, right? Those people who are early on are basically set for life, right? So we're basically going through this third wave of technology innovation, and it's the blockchain era, right? And what is blockchain? Think of blockchain as basically decentralizing everything, taking away the middleman, right? Taking away governments, banks, any other third parties, and still maintaining trust while transacting with a total stranger. Right? That's what the blockchain enables. right? So Bitcoin is the most popular one because Bitcoin, the technology behind Bitcoin is the blockchain technology, right? That was the first use case of blockchain technology known publicly. And after that, there have been new cryptocurrencies, which are basically the currencies that run underlying Bitcoin and other blockchain technologies, right? So think of cryptocurrencies as basically just digital currency or online money, right? So in the same way you transfer money via PayPal, right? Cryptocurrencies are basically the same thing, except it's its own form of currency online, and there is no middleman. There is no PayPal, there is no bank, there's no government, there's no third party, right? And two strangers can still transact with each other and still have total trust in each other.
Well, that's amazing. So this is so just the technology itself, without even investing, is just game changing on so many levels for humanity. So now we're getting into investing, and some questions I would have is as a holder of Bitcoin, I was lucky enough to get a few back in 2014. A client actually paid them to me, and I didn't even know what it was. So
I remember that.
Yeah. So
remember. Wait, let me add this. Remember when you said you got paid in these things called Bitcoin?
Yeah.
And I looked at you, and I literally think I said, I felt like you were getting paid in Skittles.
Yeah. Right.
It's like, what are you getting paid in? You're not taking money. You got paid in these things. And I remember John looked me right in the eyes. I remember we were in New York City. He says, no, he goes, this guy's really brilliant. And he swears to me that this is going to be worth way more than the coaching. And I said, God, John, our coaching is worth so much money. We value it. And it's an honor for people to be coached by us. It's an honor for us to work with people. And John looks at me and goes, this guy's really smart. And that was like, all right, I'll see. I had doubts. And then, all of a sudden I kind of woke up in December and I was like, wow, wait a second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and interesting, Ian might even know that guy. The guy started a company now called Blockstack, which I think is going to come out next year or something. So.
Oh, really? Okay. I know Blockstack.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts on that later down the road. But so here, as an investor, there's so many of these new technologies coming out. Some of these new coins are being dumped on, and some of them are straight up, just going to go to zero, and some of them could be frauds. And then there's a lot of people out there that you can't trust. They're saying, hey, buy this one, buy that one, do this, do that, and it's how can a regular person kind of navigate in this? What are some of the best strategies we can have to generate wealth for ourselves and invest in these technologies that can be game-changing, life-changing, and B, this isn't like regular investing. This isn't like throwing money in your Vanguard. There's sort of there's an active component to it because things are changing so rapidly. So what can we do to kind of store value, look for some growth and something we can trust, but also where can we take these risks and how do we take?
So I would say for anybody who's brand new in this space, when it comes to investing in new cryptocurrencies, you have to do your homework, right? But not only that, but I like to use data and analytics when doing my homework, right? I call it token metrics to basically kind of borrow from the sabermetrics approach where you apply stats and data to baseball and other sports, right? So I come from a background where I worked in data and analytics for 4 years at IBM, right? So when I joined the space, initially I was just trying to pick this project, so this cryptocurrency is based on gut feeling, based on my intuition, and I realized I wasn't really making the money I was trying to make, or I would have liked to make. And I realized there had to be a better way to invest, right? So once I began leveraging data and analytics, I was able to basically double my results and my ROI just purely based on data, right? Basically from an objective approach, not getting emotional or tied to a project, just looking at the hard, tangible facts, right? So now with token metrics, it's basically the process of using both quantitative and qualitative data points to analyze projects and comparing all projects together on an apples to apples approach, right? So the way I do it is I look at the best projects of all time based on ROI, on return on investments for investors. I take multiple data points, such as how much money they raised during the ICO, which is the initial coin offering, which is pretty much the first time those tokens are being sold to the public. Looking at how many tokens are available, how many tokens are available to investors during the ICO, the quality of the team, quality of the advisors, the community, and I take all these different data points into account. And I create one holistic grade that basically gives you the score of that project, right? Then I compare every single project against each other, and that gives me a better understanding of which project is better, which project is not worth investing in.
Interesting. It's funny because I stare at Ethereum's chart, and I see, there's a day's swing every day. It's like you look at it, it finds a low, it bounces off of it, it tests it, it bounces a little below it, it goes back up. I mean, to me, I was taught, back in 2003, I learned day trading. I spent about 8 months learning candlesticks and charts and emotions attached to it. And I was great. And it was funny too. And this is what I always tell people. I was phenomenal at paper trading because I was just reading the chart and I just knew the entry point. I didn't panic, and I had an exit point. I didn't panic, right? The second I put real money in there, I became a neurotic Jewish man from the suburbs of New York, thinking that they stole all my money that was under my bed. And it took me about 6 months to lose 10 grand. And then about 2 years later, I met a day trader, a really good one. And I told him about my experience. And he looked at me and he says, "You only lost 10 grand in 6 months." I said, "Yeah." He goes, "And you quit?" I said, "Absolutely." He says, "You were just about to make money." He goes, "Are you kidding me?" He says, "Hypnosis." He goes, "If you ran into me," he says, "I lost 150, 200 grand in my first 6 months." He says, "That's just the learning curve." He says, "If you only lost 10 grand, he says, you were doing well." He says, "You obviously learned." And that's something that you just mentioned about, coin offerings and everything else, and looking at the company and really rallying behind the people and doing some research and everything else. But what I love is I like to watch the charts because you can see the story unfold every day. It's a beautiful story. It's like we go up and we go down and we go up and we go down. And you can also see the trending upwards because you can see a bull run starting by how it's, the lows are getting lower, the highs are getting higher, and it starts, and people think like they want to get a bull, they want to get in on a bull run. Well, you got to watch out for it because it just doesn't happen overnight. It's a momentum going. So to me, I'm fascinated by watching this, and I watch the orders and I watch, people putting in, and I watch the volume and things like that. So I'm no expert at it, but it's such a beautiful thing to watch because coupled by what you're saying and how the world is changing, you see a bigger story and you think to yourself, wow, I get to participate in this. Not only that I can make money, but I get to participate in something that's going to change everything. Because like I said, I was young and I was my 20s and, late, what was I, in my 30s during the dot-com, thing. And I missed it because I just didn't educate myself. And I think that's the big thing. And you're sharing some beautiful education. You share stuff on Twitter and YouTube and everything else, because I think if people get educated themselves, you don't miss the boat because education is the greatest thing. And I think looking at a chart for 3 months straight, people go, how can you look at the chart for 3 months? Because you're looking at patterns. And then when you jump in, you trust your gut, you trust the patterns. So,
but let me interrupt here because he's got a whole other thing that he's doing here.
Oh, please.
He's basically, I guess you invented it, right? Token metrics. So it's something, a whole other thing that's beyond the day trading, but really predicting winners and choosing not just winners, but great investments for us, not just, 20 years from now, but what this is going to do as an investor for me, but also, and what he's really great at is weeding through all the bullshit that's out there and saying like this company has something real coming out, because there's a lot of these companies don't have anything, they're just ideas and they're getting money grabs. And so Ian Balina is really great at predicting. He's come up with predictors of success, and for guys like us, I mean, to be honest, I've never been technical in my whole life. I'm still trying to get my head around what half the stuff is. So to have someone you can kind of hone in on and trust and who can talk to you and you can listen to is a really big deal. So I wanted to ask you, Ian, just some questions I think would be important to everybody. Which one is are there any ICOs coming up that you think are great to get into?
So there are numerous ICOs coming out all the time. Right now, there has been a shift in the entire ICO market where most of the ICOs have been selling out pretty early during the pre-sale, private sale, before the actual public sale, right? So mainly to funds, to hedge funds and other institutional investors. But in terms of ICOs I like coming up, right now I like Metronome. Metronome is one to watch out for. They are doing a Dutch auction, right? So based on the token metrics, I feel like it's better to wait and see for the token price to decrease below $4 before getting in. So that's my plan for now. But I do like that project. I do plan to invest once the Dutch auction goes below $4. I also like some other projects coming up. There's one called Orchid Protocol. But that's right now only raising from private investors at the moment. But I think that one is probably worth looking at once it hits exchanges post ICO.
Orchid, okay. And then I wanted to ask about, because there's ones you're talking about that I didn't get into, and one I've heard you talk about repeatedly is Wanchain. And now that if we've missed the ICO, is it still like, I mean, obviously I've read about it. It sounds like an amazing technology that's coming, that's for sure. But as an investor, is it still worth jumping in now? Can we still get a big return on our money?
I mean, obviously I can't give investment advice, but just kind of based on my personal opinion, if I had personally missed the ICO for Wanchain and looking at it from an investor's perspective, right now it's trading at 11x in Ethereum over the counter, right? Meaning that people who were part of the pre-sale or private sale are trying to exit are already selling it to people just kind of like face to face in exchange for Bitcoin at 11x the initial ICO price, right? So that is 1100% gain already.
Wow.
So I anticipate when it opens up, probably sometime this month or latest early next month, it's going to be trading at 15 to 20x, right? That's about 15 to 27% gain already. And I feel like if you miss the boat, if it opens up at that price point, let's say 20%, 20x, there'll still be a 5x ROI left in it, meaning that I think Wanchain is going to a 100x return on investment in the first year of trading, right? So by the end of 2018, I think people who got in during the ICO will have turned their $1,000 investment to 100 grand, right? And I feel like if you get in on the exchanges, it's a matter of question of whether you're okay earning a 5x return on your money, which is 500%. I mean, it's not bad.
That's not bad.
But in comparison with Bitcoin or Ethereum, is it better just to leave it in those ones at that point?
But that's a tough question. So the question is, will Ethereum and Bitcoin do a 5x faster than Wanchain? I don't believe so, right? Okay. So that being said, then I think, yeah, Wanchain would be a better investment post ICO over Bitcoin and Ether if I had missed the ICO. Now, I also have the philosophy where I always try to find the next moon rocket as opposed to investing in the one that's already in orbit, right?
Yeah.
So,
right. Yeah. So how do you do that? Because I know people are interested in that.
Well, you tell us? You can tell us the next moon rocket, or that you think, even though it's just your opinion, nobody's giving advice.
Right. So let's say you missed the Wanchain rocket ship, and you're trying to find the next Wanchain, right? I would it always goes back to doing homework, right? I would go back and just go through and just analyze different ICOs. I go to ICO calendar sites like ICOdrops.com or ICOalert.com. I go through different Telegram groups and just kind of see what the sentiment is around different projects. I also have my private network around the world of other investors and just kind of seeing what they're looking at, right? Then I go through and I always do my own homework on each project, right? So if I see a particular project is bubbling up and it's getting lots of interest, or if I see any project that has any all-star advisors, that's typically a great way to start, right? All-star advisors, you typically give it the first stamp of approval, right? Then I look for the all-star team and for a prototype, right? So if a project has no product or prototype, meaning no alpha, no beta, no MVP, no shipped code, I just move on, right? Because 90% of the projects that have done well, based on an ROI perspective, had some kind of shipped code, right? So some kind of prototype, right? So that's one of the first criteria I look for, right? So prototype, all-star team, and all-star advisors. I look for a project that has all those three. Then I go and look at the actual token metrics, right? How much are they planning to raise? Is it too much? Is it too little? What's the total token supply? All of that. And based on my spreadsheet, I score each project, right? So any project that scores over 80%, I call an all-star ICO or project. And any project that scores over a 90%, I call it a Hall of Fame project, right? So when I'm doing my homework, I'm trying to find all-star ICOs and Hall of Fame ICOs.
You know, it's funny, you know, and I love the terminology because I'm a huge football fan, right? And I've done probably 3 or 4 podcasts in the last week about Tom Brady and about Bill Belichick. And you're speaking my language, because if you think about what you just said, and then I'll go to number 2, an all-star team, and then an all-star advisors. So you're really looking at the offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, head coach, special teams coach, and then the advisory board is the advisory meeting is who the owners have put together to put this team together in the first place. And, you know, it's a great way of looking at things, because why would anybody invest with somebody who they don't believe in? It's like, you know, if the New England Patriots were a Bitcoin, right, or a coin, I would invest right now in them, right? You know, but
Absolutely.
if the New York Jets were coming out as a coin, I would look at it and I would look at the advisory board and I'd look at Woody Johnson and I'd say to myself, no, that's terrible. You know, I'd look at the head coach and I go, nah, that guy doesn't know what he's doing. So that advice alone is so crucial to people, because you have to look at, and John and I've said it over and over again, if you're going to look at people you're getting advice from, look at people who have been successful at something, because the chances are they surround themselves with other successful people. And really, isn't this just all people banding together to put their collective genius out there to change the way things are being done? I mean, it's really, I love the way you broke that down, because as a sports fan, it's like I'm sitting here and go, yeah, I get it. Because I've had people who have tried to explain it to me and I sit there and I draw blanks. I'm like, huh? But that, I get it. Teamwork.
Yeah. Another question would be, you know, for you share what's really amazing about you is not just giving advice, and what the reason why we keep why people call you the new Jesus and the spirit of the blockchain is because you share everything. You share, how much you invest. You share what you're worth, what your crypto portfolio is worth today, exactly what you're invested in, exactly how many coins you have, exactly what that's worth. And I can imagine as that's gotten bigger, like at one point do you think, man, I should get this money out of here, and just that's be enough of one. Is there a time you take it out, or do we just say in the future we don't even need the regular dollars anymore?
So I do plan to take out about 10% of my portfolio. I'm just trying to figure out the best way to do it tax-wise.
Okay, so got it. Interesting.
In the US, right, with cryptocurrencies and the new tax laws and stuff like that, right? But I do plan to take about 10% off and put that into real estate.
Okay, great.
Smart. And in real estate in particular, in where you live, or real estate just throughout the world, or what's, because this is another, once again, if we're going to get on the Jesus principle, we might as well start,
Yeah, I mean, so right now the plan is just to buy a house in the DC metro area.
Okay.
Just to kind of have a house for life, basically, and not have to worry about a house. But I do travel so much right now, I'm barely home. All right, but the plan is to invest in real estate. And maybe down the line, also getting more into commercial real estate as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. I told somebody else the same thing. A young guy, 21, his uncle told him to put in Bitcoin. He made a couple $100,000, and he asked me, he says, I cashed out. He says, what do I do with that? I said, buy a condo.
Put it back in.
I said, no, he's 21. I said,
yeah.
I said, buy a condo, have no housing expense, just live for free. You're 21 years old, live for free. And then go, make a little money and put it back in there. I mean, that's so true. It's like, buy the things that you always wanted to have and set yourself up for life, and then continue to invest in it. That's great. That's great advice. But we don't give investment advice here. But if we did,
just our opinion.
If we did, that's just our opinion.
Just our opinion.
That's great advice. Yeah. I'm not that I'm giving investment advice or anything. So.
Another question is how much should a regular person, not should, of course, because we're not giving but how much would would you say if you had $1,000, how much percent would you put into this crypto market?
Right. So I always tell people only invest what you're willing to lose initially.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, for me right now, my total portfolio in terms of what I invested in total has been about 90 grand or so. But that was over the course of 1 year. Right. I didn't put 90 in initially, right? Because initially I was skeptical on cryptocurrency. Right? I began with just $100, bought Bitcoin and Ether, waited for a month or so just to see how everything was. It went up 25%. I'm like, okay, this seems kind of cool. Then I doubled down, put in $250 in Bitcoin and Ether again, waited 2 months to see how things were, right? In that same process, I was out there and just educating myself more on the space, right? Getting more comfortable, getting more books, more audiobooks on Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, investing, right? So after about 3 or 4 months, I truly bought in, right? I had my coming to Jesus crypto moment, I call it, right? Where you see like, aha, cryptos is it. Like, this is it. I finally get it, right? This is actually real, right? Then I came back and put in $2,500 in both Bitcoin and Ether. And then Ether doubled in a week and a half, right? So that's when I was truly bought in. I was all in. I was crypto for life, basically, living crypto 24/7, right? So I would say work your way up, right? Put in what you're willing to lose, right? If you have $1,000, maybe just $100 or whatever, right? And slowly build up. Right? As you get more confident, as you have more success, more wins, then start to add more money, start to double down.
Well, you know, it's funny, and that's great advice, because if you watch on some of the exchanges, you watch the orders go in, and you can see people putting in $50. You know, they're putting in a piece of a coin. You know, so it's lose the ego and get into play the game is really the best advice. You know, putting $50 in, $100 in, and just letting it ride, and all of a sudden it starts multiplying, and then you start educating yourself and learning from people like yourself and being able to really play that game and lose the fear that's around it. Because $1,000, we're going to blow that at Starbucks. You know, the average person will, you know, go to Whole Foods or Starbucks and buy coffee and potato chips and probably spend $1,000 this year. So
I think I spent $1,000 at Whole Foods last night getting dinner and a roll of toilet paper. What are you talking about?
Anyway, I got no more questions because we've gone long today. John, anything else you got before we let Ian promote where people can hear his great advice?
Well, no, I mean, I'd love to talk to Ian for 20 hours.
Me too.
However, you know, I think we got a nice scratch of the surface. I'll let Ian fill in where people can follow him. Where can they follow the Diary of a Made Man?
Yeah, so you can find me anywhere on social media. My handle is Diary of a Made Man. I have a channel on YouTube. I have an Instagram, a Snapchat, a Twitter, same handle everywhere. I also have a mastermind group where we go through and just share ICO advice. We have over 24,000 people in that group. It's free, it's open, right? That's at ianbalina.com/mastermind. If you want to check out my free spreadsheet to really get a better idea of tokenmetrics, just go to ianbalina.com/spreadsheet and you can access the spreadsheet for free.
Wow. Thank you.
I love that, because I'm going to join that mastermind. John, are you in it?
Yeah, I'm already on it. And you have one on Telegram too, right?
Yeah,
Telegram alerts.
That's the one, yeah. So Telegram has the mastermind chat and also my private alerts.
I love it. Ian, I'm on your Instagram right now, and I want to do a shout out for it. Okay. So for all you guys that waste your time basically following women who you will never sleep with just to see them put them in bikini in a picture up there. So you can literally, you know, get yourself off at night. Why don't you follow Ian and the 31.4K followers on there and the 1,051 posts that will actually show you somebody living an amazing life that you can live, somebody who's going to give you some great, not investment advice, quote unquote, right? Teach you, educate you so you can live an amazing life. Those are the people you should be following on social media, because John and I are going to come back on tomorrow's show, and we're going to talk about this social media obsession one more time and really maybe teach you that social media was not so you can sit there and check out naked women on Instagram. It was so you can literally learn and grow and expand. Because if Mark Zuckerberg really set up Facebook to check out naked women, he wouldn't be one of the biggest billionaires out there. He did it so you can expand and network, and that was the original idea behind it, until women decided to take over and men decided to be followers. And men are leaders, women are not leaders. Not to say that women can't be a leader, can't be successful.
Well, now you're going too far now. But anyway, all right. Well, I'm not part of that last statement. All right. So, okay. And neither is that's not Ian's either.
I love that. We're having a lot of like, I'm not a part of this statement.
Well, wait a minute.
This advice, right? You know.
Yeah.
It's not dating advice, not relationship, just my opinion.
Yeah, this is just my opinion. Anyway, Ian, thanks for your time, man. I appreciate it immensely. Yeah. And John, what's the tagline, man?
Hey, come on back tomorrow for more self-help that doesn't suck.